on October 22nd before a House panel investigating the 2012 attacks. In recent months, that inquiry has focused on Hillary Clinton's emails and the use of her private computer server while she was Secretary of State.
This is AP Radio News.
Thirty seconds.
Excellent.
What? 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago. Streaming worldwide at Chicago'sProgressiveTalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the vibes.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We're going to have a great show today. I'm very excited about this. I am doing shows this weekend in San Francisco. I got two tonight since Thursday. And joining me on the lineup has been Sexy Liberal show together years ago. And it's just been fantastic. Thursday and Sunday night shows, we're doing a Q&A segment so that everybody who got used to that format in the Sexy Liberal tour can actually talk to us and ask us questions specifically garnered on the election. John, of course, is very overtly political in his stand-up. I am subversively political in mine. I like to, take a study from my dear friend Mark Savard, the hypnotist, that there's a gateway between your conscious and your unconscious mind, and that gatekeeper that sits there stops anything that you don't, things that it's used to hearing. It will just stop the thought coming in and protect itself from the thought. So I find that if I use buzzwords and if I call out politicians by name specifically, that I don't get through to the people that I want to, and I end up preaching to the choir. So in my stand-up,
the same way I shut down broccoli.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Where you sort of go to sleep. That's because I hypnotized you in high school to go to sleep every time. John, wake up every time. Turn up to him. Turn up. Oh, there you go. Okay. That took a lot of programming. You were my first test subject. Johnny Million, of course,
I have no
with
idea
us.
What you're talking about.
You shouldn't. And John Fugelsang will be joining us in about a half hour at the half-hour mark, which is cool, and we'll be talking with us a little bit about the political legitimacy of the Sanders campaign versus the Hillary campaign, the fact that Hillary is now going back to the Hill for yet another Benghazi report. She's going to have to go.
Why do they keep doing that?
I don't know. And in the quote-unquote explosive email report that came from the New York Times, that they have corrected questions into. Nobody called for a hearing about her herself, and nobody called for an investigation into her emails. The report that was requested is just off the created a security supposed to be about, and may still be about if they end up having one, but never about any content in the emails that they saw that was violative of any kind of policy, even at the time, much less any kind of laws. The laws have changed, by the way, since Hillary Clinton became, since she left being Secretary of State, and sort of rightly so. I'm not a fan of the nature, I guess, of being able to house a private server where your emails that are state work can be exchanged. I'm not a fan of it. For example, there's a good reason if you're a Clinton and you've been dissected and can't speak freely because you and your husband have been the targets of right-wing political, partly to do with your activities during the 90s to try and push healthcare, but also partly due to the fact that maybe as a woman your first job out of college was on the team investigating and bringing about the resignation of Richard Nixon. They might have a chip on their shoulder against you and might try to sabotage what you're doing. So a little bit of healthy paranoia, not a bad thing. On the bad side, it ends up being like Dick Cheney's safe. Remember the 2 human size, and that was the description? The 2 human size safes that Dick Cheney had in his...
There are a lot of ways to describe something about that size.
Yeah. And
a lot of less creepy way.
Yeah.
A second.
Although, wait, those are all kind of equally creepy, John. I appreciate the attempt, though. Bless your heart. The reality is they could have said, they could hold 2 file cabinets worth of secret documents, which is really what they were for. Let's be completely honest. That's what they were there for. They were there. They were his own email server, and this was was because in the case of Hillary Clinton having her email server offsite, that you could say she could purge those emails, but everything we know about email is that they exist somewhere permanently. You sent them to somebody who didn't have a private email server, I guarantee it, or they were sent to a government server. They're doubled everywhere. pointed out, by the way, by the ignorance, him actually give his he was having an affair with, he actually said out loud in front of other human beings, as head of the CIA, I thought Gmail was secure. Wow. Which is one of the goofiest sentences anybody can say, much less somebody who is the top spy in the country. So, that being said, understand that there's no such thing as a private email server ultimately. I got news for you. It just doesn't work that way.
I got news for you.
You're not. It's stored someplace. This is, this is why, cat, so that you this comfort of, well, it'll erase in 5 seconds. Like there's literally, a red wire, blue wire kind of a timer on every picture on Snapchat for a reason, because it started as a way to send naughty pictures to your partner without them holding on to them for years, and then when they got pissed at you for leaving them for all of their character defects that became abundantly clear, they could revenge porn you. That's what Snapchat started as. That's a direct reflex of the kind of permanent storage that email is. So this idea that somehow Hillary has this abilities as, meanwhile, Dick Cheney has paper copies of stuff because he doesn't even trust it getting into the machinery. The man knew the system and said, private, server, nothing. This stuff is going to stay on like rice paper that I can, if I spit on it, it dissolves.
You
Yeah, well, that's that was the trick with rice paper. You used to learn that in ninja school. Write all your secret notes on rice paper and then toss it in the water and it dissolves. But the point is,
I tried to get into ninja school.
I know that you were too tall. And it looks really funny when you try to wear them too, with your arms and your legs and your giant spidery fingers sticking out.
I'm sneaky,
but
you can't see me.
It's almost in this, and we're going to deal with both Hillary, the possibility of Bernie-mentum, and the excitement around that, realities of the modern political age, and whether or not he a legitimate candidate or if he's just a great populist that we need to have out there, in the right good reasons to have Bernie in, no question. And then we will also discuss a couple of things. One is, of course, the lack of ability to discuss guns every time we have a shooting. This, weird. I tweeted this a while back, but it's now getting to the point where it's no longer a joke. Too soon for me to be talking about guns after this shooting. Just pretend I'm talking about the last shooting. And it's, you know what I mean? Because they're like, we got to wait till some time passes so that we don't, we're not just turning a tragedy into a political issue. And then it happens again in the window of time that you would arguably say, well, that qualifies. Is that you are now completely talking at cross purposes about gun rights, not with legitimate gun owners, not with people who have anyone is going to be the target of some sort of government swipe. What we're really talking to, everybody who's bringing this up, is either a spokesperson for the gun industry who has found a magic way to produce a right in the Constitution that you need to own their product. Not right to bear arms, but like a necessity. They're trying to make it a necessity to sell more product. And no conscious awareness that there are those among us that have no business being armed. We're going to talk about all that and Sandra Bland in the next couple hours, and take your call 773-763-9278. Fugelsang will be joining us in a little bit, and then of course in the second hour, David Bender back on with us. He's going to be joining us at the quarter hour, at the quarter hour. Talk about. We'll be back right after this. Johnny Million, just piping in right as he should every single time. It's By the way, how you doing, chat? No, EO, he's not swearing in that song.
Thirty seconds.
Excellent.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
So, we have on the day that the Aurora shooter was found, this is the word, death penalty, there was a penalty, I'm reading it. The death penitence, which is really what it is. That's the problem. Is it's seen as a penitence, as if because it's a godly act.
It's a penitentiary.
We will send him. Yes, right.
By the way, we do already have 4 calls. It's kind of crazy.
Oh wow! Well, I don't doubt it because these are heavy issues. Well, the day he was found eligible for the death penalty, they also this is the day the Louisiana shooter went into a theater and shot some people. This guy who initially, by the way, was reported by the Fox News ilk as being an Obama supporter.
Where did they come up with that?
I'm not quite sure. It was really a logical bank shot. But once they started looking at a follower of the Westboro Baptist Church, and
okay, I'm still with him. Keep going.
But not the
great.
Yeah,
I really just need to find the right party to bust that character out.
Right, yeah, right. Just and do it totally dry. Just totally drop those in.
What do you mean? I am being serious.
Yeah, right. They said that he, much like the Charleston shooter, he was methodical. He sat there for 20 minutes. It's a wonderful movie, and quite frankly, I think his targeting of that in particular movie might have a lot to do with the fact that Amy Schumer is a powerful woman, is got a lot of play these days. She's it may have been random, but it feels like this is a guy, no fixed address. They describe him as a drifter, which is such a 50.
Was he a hobo too?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, because he had a car. I guess hobos have to use trains legally to get the hobo status and get your hobo button. And end up in the original version of "Here I Go Again" by Whitesnake. The version first released by the English singer David Coverdale and his band Whitesnake had the word "like a hobo, I was born to walk alone."
Really?
Yep, it did, because he thought that was a cool Americanized word, and there you go. So then changed to drifter. So anyways, point being, this guy opened up fire in a theater on the same day that the Aurora shooter was told that he was going to be presented with the death penalty. So a little bit of copycat linkage possible here. Clearly a child of the Alex Jones fringe to some degree. They will, of course, say, like they say about every single shooter, that he is a government plot by MK Ultra to take your guns away, and that he was drugged and hypnotized into opening fire and writing these things. And
who says this stuff?
First of all, look on YouTube, and they're on and on. Charleston shooting was fake. Sandy Hook was fake. These are all crisis actors put forward by the government and the Obama. I mean, it's nuts. It's bananas. But it has a lot to do. It has a lot to do with the inability of these folks to process the fact that how they would like society to go is not functional. That the justice and protection at the barrel of a gun is the lowest denominator in terms of how life should go. It's an unfortunate circumstance. And I said this before, the last time we were talking about a shooting, or grocery store, or into a theater. If you believe your safety is hinged on that, that's not a happy thing. Buying a gun is never an exciting, happy, joyful thing. It is a recognition of either the reality or a belief that you hold that you live in a violent world and can be killed at any time by anybody that is walking around in groups of your fellow citizens. And you have to believe that to purchase one. You must believe that on some level. If you're not a law enforcement official, you have to believe that they're not going to show up in time, that people are always out to kill you. This is the thought process you have to go through. So this idea that that Dylan Ruff bought this gun, he was all excited. That kid who shot up his class in Kentucky and then himself, was so excited. His parents got him a Glock for his birthday, and he's so excited about it, like it's a toy. It's not a toy. It's a tool for killing a human being. That's it. And if you own one, you have to wrestle with the fact that that's not a good thing to have to own. That you should be able to get on with the rest of your life. That it's pathetic that you should have to use deadly force to protect yourself in the form of a gun. So this idea that it's like a pride thing is so displaced and cartoonish and childish that that's one of the things we have to get past. We have to get past the point where gun ownership is seen as anything other than, at best, a necessary evil. Because if you're excited about owning one, it means you're excited about the potential of killing somebody someday. That somehow turns you on. And that's something you have to wrestle with psychologically. You're either so fearful or so excited about the death of another human being, or the potential for your own death at the hands of another human being. That runs your life. And you're not, I guess, to some degree, you have either lost faith in your protectors in terms of the police and fire department and other groups, which, by the way, they don't seem to have a problem shooting random people who are unarmed. That's become an issue. We'll talk about that, too.
3 of the 5 calls that are coming in are about guns.
Okay, well, let's take one. Let's take one real quick before we get to this break. And John Fugelsang is going to be joining us after the next break, but we'll continue this conversation as well. Who do we have?
Let's start with Ivan in Chicago.
Cool. Hey, Ivan,
It's been a
welcome.
while since we talked to Ivan.
I'm so can't stand. Sick and tired of pandering. One, these pieces, like that cop in Texas the other day.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind that guy was a complete racist pig, and we've got to start calling them what they are. Now, I understand the police paranoia because every time they deal with the public, they assume, because of our crazy gun laws, that the citizen may be armed. So naturally, cops are going to be paranoid and fearful. You know, I watched those hearings, fine, about how we can't even mention now banning
Assault rifles?
weapons.
Yeah.
We can't even mention that now. It's completely out of the picture. It's insane. And then you get these guys calling into these shows and saying, oh, I'm a responsible gun owner, blah, blah, blah. I watched a documentary last week on HBO. It showed 3 months in the spring of last year, there was like 3,000 to 5,000 gun deaths. And it showed kids killing kids, dads killing moms, people committing suicide, one after the other. So,
Yeah.
what I'm and call them for what they are.
Understood. I won't.
I'm not saying all cops are racist pigs,
Right.
but a whole damn lot of them are.
Well, here's one of the issues, and this is what I was going to bring up. We got to take a break, so I appreciate the call, and I'll discuss it on the other side. But there was a big flood during the big Bush going into Iraq, and the fighting, these guys trying to get a hiring by the military. Well, they ended up, a lot of them getting cast out by the military. What do you think the odds are that they decided to go for local police jobs instead? Because a lot of it stinks. A lot of it stinks of I can incite a race war if I just do this, and I have every right to do so. Are all these cops doing it? Absolutely not. Is some of it from that? Very possibly. We're going to take more of your calls, and John Fugelsang joining us right after the break. 773-763-9278. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seems to be almost a cop version of pedophile priest, which is if you shoot somebody, they can just kind of move you to another parish, as it were. And there's always unfortunately, a more stabulatory. The farther down the rank you get, and then you get these used to be medium-sized jobs. These cops had decent wages and what have you, and they were doing okay, and then they did something horrible and they got bumped down. So they went to a smaller, area and a smaller area, and then they become the one cop in a small town, filled with hate and never having dealt with their own.
For you.
Perfect. Yeah. I can see the questions, Judith. They just kind of all zip by, so you just almost have to ask a couple of times. Carrie, that's Miss Lady B. She's our new producer in Chicago.
20 seconds.
Thank you.
Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
But here I go again.
I always worry that who's the guy that's leading us in there again? I just spaced on his name.
Tom Hartman?
Yeah, I'm always worried that Tom's going to pass out
Because of his intensity?
Yeah, and he kind of forgot to take a breath at some point during the middle of that promo, and he sneaks one in, and I worry about him every time. I know it's in the past, but
and it's recorded. Okay.
Recorded.
He's
when you talk to him, just tell him I'm thinking about him.
Yeah, I will, and I'll don't worry. He's still alive. He's doing shows all the time. He's writing a book an afternoon. He literally, like, books just, like, fall out of his ears as he's walking down the street, like, fully formed and bound. Crank out a series of politically scathing one-liners that can encapsulate both a thought and a laugh so succinctly that I think he's the bastard son of 1,000 Twitterers. John Fugelsang joins us right now, the sexy liberal himself. My theory was that whole tour was named after you. So, John, welcome.
No, tour,
without
tour
question.
was named after me.
Sexy as hair.
That's true, absolutely.
Hal played sexy, and Stephanie played liberal, and I played tour. Hello, everybody.
John, as we move along, too, in the conversation, about America's inability to talk about guns in the wake of a shooting in any kind of legit way. And what I keep getting pushed on was, it's too soon. And then another one happens, and you're like, wait, am I allowed to talk about the last one now?
Yeah. Anytime you hear somebody saying it's too soon to talk about gun violence, it's usually too late. Right? Mm-hmm. It's their entertainment, and that's why they have a hard time parting with it, because it's theirs and it makes them feel special. And I got nothing against guns at all. I'm not against gun ownership at all. But look at it this way: one guy tries to light a shoe bomb on a plane, and it fails, and now we all have to take off our shoes at the airport. Mm-hmm. One guy tries to set up an underwear bomb on a plane and burns his junk off, and now we all have to submit for photos to go on a plane.
Yeah.
One guy in England goes out in the woods and tries to make a liquid bomb, fails, but now we can't bring, our own bottled water to security anymore. Mm-hmm. That's all a plot by Dasani, by the way. You notice as soon as they had the water ban, Dasani became the only brand of water you could buy. Dasani is Italian for Coke just sold you tap water. So, but yet we can have gun massacres every week. We can have so many more Americans killed by guns than are killed by terrorists. And you've got the NRA, which is not a gun rights organization. It's not a Second Amendment organization. It's a lobbying group for gun manufacturers.
Absolutely.
And here's exactly what happened. There's a mass shooting, and the NRA, and I recommend all your listeners subscribe to NRA online mailing lists, so you'll see that I'm not making this up. The NRA sends out all these email blasts that Obama's coming for your guns. Mm-hmm. So everybody buys more guns, and the gun manufacturers profit again off of every gun massacre. It works. Mm-hmm. And no one's coming for your gun, Skeeter. No one wants your precious entertainment. But, when you realize that expanded background checks had over 90% popular support, it was more popular than Christmas. Mm-hmm. And we can't get that going. That you've got Ronald Reagan and Sylvester Stallone are to the left of Harry Reid on assault weapons, and we can't even do anything about it.
Right.
So it goes to show it's really fascism. If Mussolini was right and fascism is corporate control of the government, this is the gun manufacturers using the NRA to buy off politicians to control our democratic process.
You're freaking me out, John.
I find it...
Thank you. This is all of my new children's books.
Yes, right. It's a pop-up book, which is really frightening when you get to the gun part.
It scares the heck out of me. Every page I turn, I'm like, no.
I find it very fascinating that you can own a gun and carry it around in full awareness that you're going to use it to kill someone who doesn't have it coming. Just commit a crime with it. But if that doesn't count. If you say you're going to shoot somebody, and ends, there is a curtailment. The say are saying be okay with the curtailment of somebody saying that they let that slide. The First Amendment we can mess with all we want. The Second Amendment is sacrosanct. The Amendment was quite frankly Amendment. That's one.
Guns don't kill people, but NRA people who own Congress people make it easy for deranged people to get guns and kill innocent people. Mm-hmm. And trying to save American lives. Who's the real patriots? I mean, we had to go and have this war with Iraq, ostensibly just people who said we had to go to war with the countries that never attacked are the ones making it so easy to get a gun.
That is the one that kills me. When they'll do anything to save an American life except this.
Yeah, well, they won't accept Medicaid funds when they're expended by the federal government either. Mm-hmm. But it's mind-boggling that at this point, what the NRA really does is they do nothing to make it harder for mentally ill people to get guns. If you ever go on Twitter and everyone's talking about mental illness, you can guarantee a white person just killed a lot of people, okay? But also the NRA does nothing to stop legal guns from becoming illegal guns.
Right.
And that's the dirty secret here. What are we going to do? Why can't we register this? It doesn't curtail your rights at all. And background checks don't curtail your Second Amendment rights unless you're insane. If you're all three, you already work as a lobbyist for the NRA.
Well, the fascinating part to me is you look at this idea that gun rights themselves are sacrosanct and that everyone has the right to do this, but it's presented as if there is no scale. When you ultimately get down to it, the very people, nobody who just has a single gun for home security and have been sold that line by the NRA and bought it, that they're safer if they have a gun in the house. None of those people, as nervy as they are around the gun that they own themselves, who may have practiced with it, are treating it with all the dignity and respect that it requires as a dangerous nutcase next door to shoot it and put a bullet through their wall either. Like there's reasons why they don't want other people to have this. Now, the main argument I seem to see all the this, you need them, and this Rick Perry even said this at one point. You need it to protect yourself from a tyrannical government. This storyline.
Oh, of course, yeah. Let's bring an AR-15 to a drone fight.
Yeah, it's absurd on its face, just as a mechanic, but on top of it, it really points to a total permanent paranoid distrust that kind of leads you to being a little mentally ill. Even if you're just on the edges of that, like, hey, if they might come for him, man, we got to be able to fight back, or this Red Dawn myth that they are gonna, that the Chinese are gonna attack and that they're gonna hold them off, and the crazy part to me is unarmed black people are shot and killed by the police because they feel threatened. Meanwhile, the cops that went to serve Clive and Bundy had a sniper on a bridge putting sights on their heads from a guy who was never arrested, a white guy with a rifle, who admitted later that he was targeting police officers in case anything went down, in case he made a decision at that point to be above the law. He was going to start shooting cops. That guy been arrested, served with anything. But
no,
yeah,
because the Confederacy actually won the Civil War.
Right. Well, that's the
Any questions?
Yeah, right. That slowly but surely the South will rise again.
And again, a lot of this is also high capacity ammo clips.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the NRA wants you to believe that your children are guys right to shoot 30 clay pigeons in a row without having to reload,
mm-hmm.
and that's the real dirty thing. And by the way, if you need 30 rounds in a magazine, you're a dude who sucks at
6-7 calls.
Wow. Okay, well, we got to take a break anyways when we come back. John, I don't know if you can stick with us, but maybe you want to be on for some of the calls. That'd be great. Awesome. Well, we'll take some calls.
I'm going to learn how to keep John on the line.
Yeah. Oh, boy. It's an exciting shuffle of buttons. We'll be back. It's the House Parts Radio program, Mega Worldwide, with Double John. That's right. Got Johnny Million and John Fugelsang. We'll be back right after this. Nobody does. All right. We'll be back.
Hey, you're pretty.
Beautiful.
No. Break.
Hi. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Lady B. John's still feeding through from the phone lines. I just don't want him to. He should be able to speak freely and go to the restroom during the break. Hi, John. Second, we're just putting you on hold during the break. There you go. Okay, cool. I just don't want him going out over the air accidentally when he's trying to use the break to dick.
$30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
answered that.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. We've got John Fugelsang still on the line, and Johnny Million in the studio, and Miss Lady B running the board. First day flying solo.
I'm worried about Tom Hartman.
Are you? Yeah, because he needs to take a breath.
I'm worried about that recording of Tom Hartman. Yeah, I'm going to check with my other Tom Hartman recordings to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
They convinced me.
That's wise. Let's take some calls. 773-763. Have Johnny. Are you there, Johnny? I can't hear you. Hello? Hello, Johnny. Hello, Johnny Million.
Can you hear me now?
There you are. Hi. Yeah.
Well, I think I just brought Nashville Carl on the line.
Oh, excellent. Hey, Nashville Carl.
It might not be working. Is there anything else I need to do here, Lady B?
All right. It's okay. Phones can be wonky sometimes. Yeah, we still have John.
Do we still have John?
Yep.
I'm here?
Yeah.
Cool.
I can hear the wispy hum of an open phone line letting me know that he's there. We'll figure out how to...
You think Carl's missing?
He might still be there. Could be. Shall we try another caller and then we'll get back to him? Yeah?
Yeah, let's rock some Steve from the Gold Coast.
Right on. Hey, Steve, welcome. Is that it?
I am here.
There he is. All right.
Yes.
All right, Carl, call back.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, one, I think in this country, and debate we can't have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in many ways, the NRA and its supporters are desperately hoping for a sort of Superman in one of these shootings. They want that person who's not part of law enforcement, not the hero that throws their body on someone else to save them or helps to evacuate people. They want the guy who's the legal gun owner who managed to up him.
Sorry about that. Bit of a rig. Da-da. Hey, worked. Okay. Back in a couple seconds. David Benner's going to join us. Let's see.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
David Bender will be joining us in a little bit. We're going to take more of your calls. 773-763-9278.
Good, if that's the case.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny.
Hey.
Hey, you're on. Look at you.
Yeah, we better get to these calls.
Yeah,
man.
we got a lot of them. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to give Nashville Carl another try.
Excellent.
Are you there this time, my man?
I'm here this time.
Yeah, right.
Well, listen, when I came in the house, I guess around 10:30, and that's when I saw the reports of the shooting in the movie theater, and right while I was watching CNN, Bobby Jindal was on. This is when he first talked about it,
right?
And the guy, I sat there, and one of the people asked him the question, well, when we're going to start talking about gun control, and on cue, like a robot, his the Republican spiel every time. It's too soon. We don't want to politicize this, and so I'm like, someone please have a follow-up question. No one had a follow-up question. Then yesterday I saw him, and they said the same thing, and then he had his moral outrage face on, but someone asked him a follow-up question. Hey, this happened a couple of days ago. And it's weird how how we in America, how one shooting makes national news, but another shooting is old hum-ho. I mean, what is the difference between a guy getting shot in the inner city somewhere, 2 or 3 people being shot and killed, and then someone being shot and killed in a movie theater? And I just find it extremely fascinating how the shooting of here in Tennessee in Chattanooga, they tried as hard as they could to make some connection with this man, with Al Qaeda, with ISIL. They tried to hook him up with every terrorist around the country. And you know what? At the end of the day, he was just another pissed off American that got a hold to a gun too easy. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what it was. And at the end of the day, you know, even though they don't, I've never heard one person mention the word terrorist with the guy down in Lafayette. I've heard one news network, no one says domestic terrorism, but if his name was Ahmed, they'd be trying to link him to every terrorist group in the world. And at the end of the day, he was just a pissed off American that got easy access to a gun.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know? I would say I would say it actually is. It does qualify as a form of domestic terrorism, but he had stated online that he considered himself to be a lone wolf, that there was a value to lone wolf killings, that that he was a big New World Order-ish kind of fearmonger. It was very written posts about. So he was absolutely there with a political agenda in that regard. The problem, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying bringing up that he is once they realize he's a terrorist, and he really is. He's a domestic terrorist with a right-wing, white supremacist ideology. Once you bring that up, that brings to they start going, well, you can't police people's thoughts, and the thought police, and this is, it's not, these aren't, there's no such thing as a hate crime. That's where their conversation goes. But
that's the ironic part about that. You can't criticize a thought, but we have a damn war on a thought.
Yeah.
The war on terrorism is a horrible way to phrase what we're doing. You cannot war out a thought.
Well, you can't declare war. Everything, I'll do you one better. Everything we have ever declared war on, in the end, is doing better now than it was then. And that includes Germany and Japan. Like, if you look at it as a ridiculous, from the sublime to the ridiculous, the reality is, once the war on poverty was declared, poverty has gone up since. Once this idea that, the Republicans are declaring war on women, the only bright side is everything else Republicans have declared war on has gone up. So maybe it'll actually be beneficial to women in the long run. That the war on drugs, went from it was a relatively minor shock problem in communities to available freely in almost every street corner, and that was a direct response to that thing. And they are treating, by the way, this comes from a certain kind of mentality. They believe that there's a war on guns. They believe Obama has a war on guns. They believe that the New World Order or the U.S. government is declaring war on guns. And so their response is to make it as readily available and as kind of commonplace as they can, to make it normal. And guns aren't normal. They're not normal. They're not how society should run. And I said this before, and I really mean it. People need to start treating guns with the sadness that it's a sad thing for you and your family, that you live in a situation.
Sad thing, because I sit back and I've listened, Canada, and even every damn day I cut on the news, they're telling me that ISIS is the biggest threat, that to be afraid. We're the ones that's knocking each other over, kill other Americans on a daily basis a day. We would be scared. Exactly. Many people die from violence. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. People say, well, right, but what about my right to live and not get shot?
And not have to worry about being shot. One of the reasons,
it's an amazing thing.
One of the reasons why we as a society have police, and we've decided to basically outsource the carrying of guns to other human beings. And this, you got to deal with the trust issue with police. That's a whole conversation in and of itself. But the entire point is that this is a natural point of society, that we would all rather get on with doing other stuff in our lives instead of playing low-end policemen every time we market. And that's these guys hearken back to what they want. You know, this is their dream world, because and maybe feel at home or worthwhile in a modern society, that they just see the rest of society moving on with equal rights for women, gay marriage, and minority rights, and this, you know, the train has left the stage. You really think that white supremacy is a birthright and not something you'd have to earn and show off? But if you believe that, you know, that's how the world should run, it doesn't run that way anymore, and it's never going to again, and that's a good thing. And so these people feel left behind by this, and so what do? They hearken back to a time when it was already on their side, where they could justify their behavior by the rest of society agreeing with them, and they could carry out their will at the barrel of a gun. They could shoot the black guy who came into town because he wasn't supposed to be there, and or the woman who was uppity, and they could beat their wife to death, and a court would never try them. And that's never going to be the going back. Start this crap all they hate and fear. It's never going to happen. That direction again. We're not going.
And to get political with that, these are the people that are pushing up people like Donald Trump to the front of the line, because the Republican Party has embraced and have teased these people for years that we can bring this back. We can knowing damn well what you said is the absolute truth, that those days are never coming back. The Republican Party have tricked their base for 40 or 50 years into believing that, yes, these days can come back. We can. When they say we want to make America great again, this is what they're talking about, and they have
take our country back to 1870.
And now they're frustrated, and they're finally realizing that they can't go back to the way it used to be.
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, Carl. We rode the whole segment with you, but I appreciate it. It was a good conversation. We'll take more of your calls after this, and David Bender will be joining us after the break. 773-763-9278.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. We have on the line David Bender. In 1 second, I want to lead him off with something very specific. And David, welcome to the show. Are you there? Do we have him with us? There is the very group that is most fearful, most freaked out. Hey, Johnny, are you there?
Sorry,
yeah.
David.
Yeah. Is David with us?
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Hi, David. Welcome to the show. All right.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you back. We're going to talk about. I want to talk to you about Bernie and Hillary, the possibility of Bernie mentum and all kinds. Yes, and at the same time, I want to bring up something that kind of ties into what we were talking about last. That the president just made his first trip to Kenya as president in an attempt to make right-wingers' heads explode. The president went to Kenya and met a half-sister he'd never met and had dinner with extended family, which just the pictures alone make people just go nuts.
So Hal, you're saying you can go home again?
Yes, you can. And here's the thing. This is the most amazing point. Being gay in Kenya is illegal. It is against the law to be gay in Kenya. Yep. The African leaders had warned Obama not to raise the issue of LGBT rights on his trip, and he, giving a speech, he was asked about the status of LGBT Kenyans on Saturday, and he did not hesitate. This is a quote from Barack Obama while being the first black president to visit, Kenya as president, who has relatives from there in this perfect storm of New World Order fear of a black president nightmare that the Republicans find themselves in. He said this about gay rights in Africa and worldwide. He said, and I quote, "I'm unequivocal on this. If someone is a law-abiding citizen who is getting about their business and working in a job and obeying the traffic signs and doing all the other things that all citizens are supposed to do and not harming anybody, the idea that they're going to be treated differently or abused because of who they love is wrong. Full stop."
Full stop. You
could not ask for a more direct statement on that. I think the only way he could have been more... he would have had to have come out as gay himself. That's the only way.
Wait for it, Hal. He'll be.
Oh, they've already accused him of it. They've already
accused.
He's
been married a long time.
He's been married to a gay man, and Michelle Obama's a beard and blah blah blah. That. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but hey, let's get to the substance of what you said.
Yeah.
These are moments. These moments, like the moment in the Rose Garden when he came out after the Supreme Court decision and basically said, "Love is love," and that's what this has affirmed. These are moments that are historic, and you know, and I know because we've been talking about this for years. You've been part of these moments. You were a part of this, 15 years ago when Queer as Folk appeared in people's living rooms and changed hearts and minds. That's the power of these images, the power of these words to do that. It's why I'm doing a documentary called Playing Gay, and we're up and running right now, playinggay.com, to tell those stories. And in fact, I'm hoping that what you've just quoted is footage that aired on the evening news, because each of those moments helps to move this progress. And you talked about it in the last segment with that caller. You talked about the idea that people have moved on, and I love the phrase you used. There are other people who were left behind. Well, those people think they're going to be popped off the planet into some wonderful salvation, even as they're homophobic and misogynistic and racist. They're going to be we're going to be left behind, and they're going to get heaven. It's the other way around.
Yeah,
it is hell on earth for them to watch freedom happen. Because they are dinosaurs, and they're making a lot of noise when their tails hit the ground and bump the ground and shake the earth. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
But it's happening. It's inexorable. And what the president did in Kenya and what is being done in America right now is a part of that process. It's funny you mentioned Africa, because remember Johannesburg? Johannesburg, at the end of apartheid, it was the last little white
pocket.
Yep.
And they held on for dear life, and then they said, "Wait a minute, we better give Mandela both his freedom and the keys to this country, because we're going to be dead if we don't."
Yeah.
And that past is prologue here. What we're going to see that played out in South Africa, inevitably is playing out in this country, and people don't want to acknowledge it because, of course, they've been holding on to power for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's over for them.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing is a direct reaction to that. You're seeing the last vestiges, of the internalized violent opposition to life moving on without you, and the importance of holding on to your bigotry, your racism, your misogyny, at the expense of your actual rational experience. A lot of the times, you see that black police officer helping that white supremacist who was having heat stroke at one of these Confederate flag, waving events. Yeah. And you recognize that his true experience of black people is not a negative one. If he allows himself to recognize what he's actually experiencing instead of seeing it through the filter he has insisted upon psychologically for so long. The same thing, I think, applies to gun laws. Yeah. Go ahead.
How about Charleston?
Yeah.
How about the president's speech? We haven't had a chance to talk about this since it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe one of the most remarkable moments, there have been a series of them, and we know this about Barack Obama, is he is a guy who, the closer you get to the buzzer, the more you see how good he is.
Yeah.
And you and I have been talking about this for years. People underestimate him. He not only went to Kenya, he went to a federal prison.
Mm-hmm.
And highlighted the injustice of our prison system and racial profiling. How about the speech in Charleston when he talked about grace and forgiveness? That's exactly to your point about this man and a white supremacist. You cannot deny it when people act on the better angels of their nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the president's been calling people to. And finally, we're starting to see, at least to some degree, there's going to be backlash. That dinosaur tail something is going to shake the ground for a while. And that's what this Republican field is about. And frankly, I know you asked about Bernie and Hillary. That's what we're seeing in this. We're seeing it here even with Bernie Sanders. A lot of people going to a guy who's fought for civil liberties for 50 years is still hearing genuine anguish and anger from people who say, you still don't get it. I happen to love Bernie Sanders, but I think that there is some truth to the fact that people who have not had this experience of being profiled, you come from Vermont, you're not seeing a lot of this. It's very important that people understand that it's not enough just to say that there's economic inequality. You really have to understand what it means to say Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And that's...
For those that don't know, the Black Lives Matter interrupted an event of Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders, and O'Malley ended up saying all lives matter in response to it,
right,
which was just a tone-deaf, silly response to the circumstance. My immediate thought, quite frankly, is that Hillary Clinton should have invited the Black Lives Matter people to speak at an event with her, specifically, like on stage, invited, not as a disruption.
Would have been a smart move.
Yeah, not as a disruption, but as an active moment. I'm obviously not making those kind of decisions for her, and I don't know what the availability of that entire circumstance is. It's there's a lot of political wranglings in that, but optics being what they are, it's very important in that regard. The two of them fumbled really heavily on that issue, and it came.
And Bernie did a pivot.
Yes.
In the following days,
yes,
because he does listen.
Yeah,
he really does. And so we'll see. We'll see if it has an impact. But you're right; they fumbled the ball because these not only the optics matter, but language matters.
Mm-hmm.
People are made invisible when you don't use the word gay. When the Kenyans said to the president, "Don't say that," they understood the power of invisibility.
Right.
And that's how African Americans feel in this country. They are made to be invisible. Their cases don't matter. If something happens to a young white woman, it's all over the news.
Yeah.
But
and it will change policy. By the way, the whole goal is that it change. You know, the Republicans are trying to use the death of a white tourist shot by a Mexican immigrant who was here illegally as a method to change policy on a national level.
Yes,
they are. But the deaths of dozens of black people over the last 6 months that have come to the news. Their argument is they cannot be used to motivate political change. It is specifically, not allowed. And especially, especially when you're talking about the Bland case, or you're talking about unarmed black people, shot for being a quote unquote threat, while video after video from these body cams is coming out of white people talking back to police. One, Sam Cedar, I think, played a clip of a guy just screaming obscenities at a cop and calling him crazy, just screaming at the dude. And the guy said, have a nice day, sir. There's your ticket, and let him go. Sandra Bland doesn't want to put out her cigarette.
Was he white?
Yes, of course he was white. Yeah, that's the whole point. Exactly. Yeah. Whereas Sandra Bland doesn't put her cigarette out after she's basically served. There was a case called, and we got to take a break. Can you hold with us through the break? Do you want to hold with us?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Sure. We'll talk about more of this on the other side. And take your call, 773-763-9278. Pro Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. David Bender still with us. Johnny Million still in studio. You doing good, Johnny? You all right? Are you with us? Can I hear you? Or did he?
Tom Hartman was holding. He was keeping me from breathing.
Were you just calling him at home to make sure he was all right?
Tom,
you're out in the hallway.
And he was gasping. It was alarming.
We have
people who've been holding for a long time.
Yeah, let's get to some of these calls. So I appreciate that, and David's going to be on there. By the way, David's working on a documentary called Playing Gay. It's playinggay.com is the website, and they're gathering stories around this, and you can see all the information there. I myself will be shooting an interview for it sometime in August or September. We're going to work out that detail. Very exciting. But let's take
very exciting. Thanks.
Absolutely. Let's take a call right now. And who do we got?
Sure. We've got George from Palatine's been hanging on for over an hour. Thank you, George.
Thanks, George. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Great.
Real quick, first of all, I'm kind of embarrassed. I was watching you on Ustream, and it took me approximately 30 minutes to figure out that I was watching June 21st. And so I was calling to reply to something you were saying on the show. You were kind of, doing a beautiful rant about, the Iraq War and the people that got duped by it. And I was just going to have a friendly little conversation with you about Bernie Sanders versus Hillary, because
sure.
Of course, Hillary, voted for it, and Bernie was, and then I realized, oh, darn it, this was June 21st. He's not even talking about that today. So then
but we kind of are.
I've been listening to you.
Yeah, we brought that up during the yeah, go ahead though. Go ahead and ask the question, because I think it's germane to the conversation. I think it's important. Go ahead.
Excellent. No, well, so the thing is we have two Democratic candidates, as far as I can see, that to me are like the main possibilities for winning this thing. And one of them kind of went with the wind and said, let's go and invade Iraq. And the other guy kind of stood by his principles and voted against it. And I just think that we don't give Bernie enough credit for 40 years he hasn't changed one speech. I mean, the guy's been saying the same stuff for 40 years. And that consistency is, I think, awesome.
I agree. I mean, I don't have an issue. Here's the thing. Hillary Clinton has since said she regretted her decision and has said she wouldn't have made the same. She wouldn't have made the same decision had she knew what she knew now, which I think is a valuable thing. It shows character to actually say that out loud. Other people would have clung to it anyways, going, "This was a very dangerous time." Right. Start telling you the 9/11 story all over again. She didn't do that. Changing your mind about stuff does take character. The president himself supposedly evolved on gay rights issues. We now know that according to David Axelrod's book, he didn't evolve on it at all. The rest of the country did, and he was waiting for us to catch up. There's an element of...
I didn't believe him in the first place.
I did not either.
Yeah. Right.
Nope.
Nobody believed him, but there is something. It goes back to FDR, which was FDR wanted to do a lot more for civil rights, but he said to civil rights leaders in the 40s, you've got to make me do it.
Yep.
You've got to build the support. I can't do this without you creating that groundswell. And that's the way this works.
And it's a similar circumstance for Hillary. It is a similar circumstance for Hillary and Bernie in that Hillary as a Democrat and someone who clearly had eyes on the White House for quite some time, was making strategic decisions along the way. Bernie Sanders is an independent who caucuses with the Democrats, and serves as another vote for the Democrats in the Senate, but in reality is kind of free to operate without any platform. Really, he can create his own platform from scratch without caucusing with other Democrats necessarily for that creation of that. He's an independent. He's running as a Democrat, but he is always.
I got to say, I went to a Bernie Sanders event in Los Angeles about a month ago, and I've been a Democrat since before puberty. I'm not sure how that works, but it's true.
Sure, and I believe it's inborn.
It is inborn. You're born that way.
Yeah, right? You don't turn Democrat, right? Sure.
And you don't turn. It is not a choice.
Yeah.
And I've watched this. I've watched Gene McCarthy and Robert Kennedy in 1968. I watched George McGovern in 1972. I watched Mo Udall, a wonderful Democrat, a great guy who couldn't win the nomination, lost to the more practical candidate, Jimmy Carter, went on to win the White House. Democrats always have a candidate like Bernie Sanders in the primaries. Occasionally that person like McGovern gets the nomination, but it's very hard. Remember, McGovern lost 49 states. Democrats love to vote their heart. The question is, can you vote your heart and your head at the same time in America? And it's a really tough question to wrestle with. If I had my druthers, I'd appoint Bernie Sanders president right now.
Right.
I don't have that power. But I agree with absolutely everything I heard him say in that room.
I agree.
Single-payer health, education for all, free. He is absolutely advocating the things that are core democratic principles. Do they resonate with the national electorate? Well, take a look. This is a country that works on electoral votes. So Ohio and Florida and places like that it's the weak link in the chain principle. It's the way this country was set up.
But didn't we have this conversation with Barack Obama?
We absolutely
We had the same conversation with Barack Obama, and it turned out that people elected a black dude whose middle name was Hussein in the post 9/11 era. I mean, it is possible.
Absolutely right. It is possible, but we've also seen how limited his ability to govern has been given the blowback in the nation and the Congress.
That's true. That's true.
It's the tough upstream. And by the way, the one big elephant in the room is that you finally do have a Democratic candidate with an actual winning represent the population of the United States, and that women are 52% of the electorate. And have never been represented in high office like this before. They outnumber everybody, and they've never had a president. And as much as it was an extraordinary act that the president, that Obama became president. And I talked about this with somebody last night. Was they were Bernie's got to have a chance because Obama was behind and all this stuff. But Obama had also made the key speech at the Democratic convention that had in everybody's mind made him. Put him on a bullet train to leadership positions. He had seized the mantle like nobody else had. Bernie it has been around for a very long time. He certainly hasn't changed his message and deserves credit for that. But at the same time, he's sort of viewed as as sort of a sweet Ron Paul on the left side, in that he's the Occupy movement, and a lot of young voters can get very much behind him, and he doesn't have the cruelty of the Ron Paul and Rand Paul, Ayn Randian methodology, but he's viewed as a similar candidate in that regard. Here's his main importance. He pushes the conversation exactly where it needs to go. And it's arguably the idea that Hillary Clinton was going to come, right of center, right out of the box to try and win over Republican votes has not been the case. She's actually come left of center and left of Bernie on a couple of issues. So there's some value here.
That did help a lot. That did help.
Yeah. So he needs to be there.
The argument is to Bernie should get as much support as possible. With the premise that all of us are going to be prepared, I know I am, to support Hillary full throttle if she winds up being the nominee. But frankly, right now, I hope Bernie does really well. I wouldn't mind at all if he won Iowa. I think that'd be terrific. It'd be great for the country, great for the party, and make Hillary a much better candidate. You're spot on with that.
Yep, absolutely.
But, you guys make some good points.
Can Bernie win a general election? Maybe not.
Right. That's ultimately what it's about. Do we want to leave the general election up to any Republican at all? Anybody in this field? And the answer is absolutely not. And as much as somebody might have a problem with some past votes of Hillary Clinton, the overall reality is that she's the first one who made the hard run at health care for everybody back in the day and was vilified and torn apart for it. And she and her husband were basically strategized against, much like Obama from the very beginning of his presidency. They were strategized against to get them out of that office. The impeachment process had a lot to do with destroying both of them for fighting for health care. And so we can't forget, in our love of Bernie, that doesn't mean a hate for Hillary.
Don't you worry, Hal? Don't you worry about just all of the money that she's getting from so many places?
Nope. I'll tell you why. Because those people are going to hedge their bets. They're going to give money to both sides like crazy.
Hedge fund their bets.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. That doesn't mean they're going to get what they want. They did the same thing with Obama. They started giving money to him as well, hoping it would curry favor, and ultimately it did not. So so
that's where you look to an Elizabeth Warren who said something really important that we shouldn't forget. that in both Clinton administration, both terms of Clinton, then George W. Bush for 2 terms, and then Barack Obama, so many of the people who wound up occupying cabinet slots and important regulatory slots have come out of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
That is where we need, the devil is in the details.
Right.
If Hillary continues that revolving door, then, Johnny, your point's exactly right. We cannot let that happen. We've got to keep her from repeating the Robert Rubins and the rest of that going forward. That is an important point to keep at the top of mind.
And that will be a strong part of the, yeah. We got to take a break, and I appreciate the call. And after the break, we're going to have a happy ending, and the happy ending will be we're going to take all these great calls because we've got a lot of people still on the line, and then we're going to have to that'll be our happening for the day. David Bender, thank you so much for joining us. PlayingGay.com is the website. Please check it out, and I'll be in that documentary once it is complete. So thanks for joining us again, David.
Wait. Thank you, Hal. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks to the callers, and we'll take more of you after the break. 773-763-9278. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yeah, my overall issue with a lot of the Democrats who are pro-Bernie in this regard is that they somehow feel like they have to be anti-Hillary to do it. Like they have to really chew at her to get through. And they just sound like disgruntled Tea Partiers. You know, it just reeks of it. And so part of the thing, too, is that there's a good portion of them that are trolls that are chipping away at her lead because the Republicans are, that's part of their strategy this time around, too. They don't win on issues. They cheat and redistrict, and they cut against things, and they make up stuff. And so you just got to understand that that's part of, what, I got to tilt my laptop up or it's going to overheat. There's an important part where this knee-jerk national reaction of we're Democrats, we hate Republicans, we're Republicans, we hate Democrats, that gets internalized as well. It becomes your only thought process when it comes to politics. Who am I in love with and who do I hate? It's just silly. I've always said, Jack 429, the Republicans love America, they just hate the United part. That's what
This is Tom, listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega World Chicago's.
From Norman Goldman and a couple other people, I think Wayne Besson made them for us. So let's start rotating those in, just because I think that's what's happening is that Tom is exhausted.
Yeah,
he's having to do all. He's having to do all of them, and that's not fair. That's not fair to Tom.
All right, so everybody on hold, we know that you've been very patient, but we need you to be quick for the person behind you. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. So fire away, and I'll try and not get on a diatribe.
All right, here comes Dale from California.
Excellent. Hey, Dale, go ahead. Are you there, Dale?
Come on, Dale.
Hey, Dale.
I'm the one in the orange coat. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
You cut out for a second, but you're back.
That's good. Go ahead.
Hi, I saw you on Thursday with John. I was the one with the orange coat and the genderqueer shirt. Could you compare and contrast the traffic stops of Sandra Bland and George Zimmerman by Texas state troopers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That I made reference to that. I appreciate the call. It could not be more stark. And the body cams are right now currently body cams and police cams are not slowing the number of these incidents. They are, though, for the first time with any consistency, showing them. And what it becomes increasingly clear that once these people forget that they're still on camera, the cops, they start acting like they normally act. And when they pull over a white person, even if that white person, by the way, has a bumper sticker that's a little curious that makes them seem like they're sovereign citizen types. There's a cop who had this run-in with a sovereign citizen, white guy, and that guy he ended up being arrested, but it took a long time, and it was this kind of, all right, please step out of the car, like it was a chatty conversation. The Sandra Bland situation, like she wasn't even mouthing back at this guy. She was just upset about being stopped for being, not signaling on a lane change. And it was an absurdity, and she knew it. And we all would, anybody who would talk to a cop honestly, he asked her honestly how she felt. She told him, and he basically used that as his reasoning for saying that she was insulting him and therefore needed to be arrested. He never placed her in any kind of arresting form, and then he physically detained her in a violent way. It was an absurdity. The idea that I don't buy, obviously the findings of the case have to come out. There's got to be a full autopsy. All the evidence has to be displayed. But I don't buy it for a second. I don't know anybody who looks at that thing. This woman was busted for a traffic stop, was looking forward to a new job she had coming up, commits suicide by hanging herself with a garbage bag in a jail cell. I don't buy it. Part of me, like my soul will not allow me to believe otherwise. They will have to. We're going to need footage of the actual her doing it to herself by herself for me to buy it.
Well done, Hal.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we're going to shift gears.
Yep.
To Bill in Illinois.
Bill in Illinois.
Still with us?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Bill.
Illinois.
Yeah, I just want to say that Barack Obama and America doesn't have a moral leg to stand on lecturing anybody in Africa about how they treat their citizens when it's a low-grade genocide being carried out against African Americans in this country. And the only reason Barack Obama has toured a penitentiary and went there and is going to let a few inmates out is because he's also, that deal he worked out with Cuba is to bring back the Black Panthers they're hiding and bring them back in chains. White guys are all happy with Barack Obama, but black folks aren't happy with Barack Obama.
Oh, are you their duly designated representative? Is that your job? Is that you've been elected in charge?
I can speak for my people, and I'll tell you this.
Well, I would never speak for white people in general. I can tell you my opinion on stuff, but I know plenty of black people who are happy with him as a president. What does that mean?
Barack Obama sits up here and lectures Africa, and you said that he told civil rights leaders that they have to push him. Imagine that. We got to push this black man to do something for black folks.
He was talking about Martin Luther King when he said that.
No. David Bender was
Luther King when he said that.
Yeah, David Bender was talking about Martin Luther King talking.
Let everybody else talk except me now. Barack Obama sits up here and said the civil rights leaders have to push him.
No, he didn't say that.
Him to get up stage.
All right, so we've got got Lou about gun control on line 1, and Lou on my screener thing. Every time I see Lou gun control, I think it says Love Gun.
And so we'll play that at the end of the show.
Boy.
Okay, so hi Lou, go ahead.
Hi Al. Really quick. Thank you for the technical difficulties. Part of the reason I listen to your show, first of all, is your commentary, which I think is great, and your humor. But a very close second is the technical difficulties.
Yes, thank you. Thanks very much.
I heard you talking over a commercial.
Yes.
Over commercials.
Yeah.
So,
for the record, by the way, that wasn't me. That was John Fugelsang. His phone was still coming through the line. I actually am the one who ran interference. But it's still my show. I'm in charge. You're absolutely right. It's my responsibility. Go ahead.
Yeah, whoever it was has to. I just recommend Gamblers Anonymous.
Yeah.
It's easy for you to say.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, go ahead.
But seriously, about the gun issue, I mean, can we get back to that? Or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have two friends.
Mm-hmm.
One lived in Miami. He rented a house. He had his car stolen out of his driveway in the middle of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to a cop. He said, he hates guns.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I hate guns, but I'm afraid I'm going to be robbed. He said, get and learn how to.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you can load it up quickly, and if you cock it, and
it's
someone's
scary.
in your house,
That's the Joe Biden thing.
It's going to scare them the hell out of your house.
Mm-hmm.
He says, second of all, you can't miss with a shotgun if you have to shoot. Whereas, and he said, and the cop really didn't want him to get the gun.
Sure.
And my friend didn't want to get the gun, and he did get the gun, and he cocked it he learned how to use it, all that. He cocked it without anything, and let me tell you, that sound made me jump.
Yeah.
Without anything in it, just the sound.
And you're absolutely. And John brought that up. Joe Biden. Joe Biden's speech where he was talking about gun ownership. His big thing was get a shotgun because the cocking sound of it is enough, and that's because Joe Biden is listening to cops about this issue.
Right.
He's being a good vice president. He's talking to police officers, and they're saying this would be a better situation for us.
All right, can we squeeze in maybe one more here?
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we've got Mac on the line.
Excellent. Hey, Mac, go ahead.
Hey, I heard a caller. Well, it was really one of the hosts, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the police officer, the black police officer that helped.
Yes, I said that. Yes, I brought that guy up. Yes.
Yeah, I think he ought to be fired and take his picture and everything. That's what I think about that, first of all.
How do you mean?
Another caller called in. I don't know if he was African American, but he sounded like it, and he wanted gun control, as far as I'm concerned. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, everybody has varying degrees of it, but what's your point? You can just tell us what you think.
Well, okay, my point is this. I'm all for having guns, especially since I'm a so-called black African American. Every black person should have a gun, be ready at all times. And what disgusts me, too, is people call in, and this white and black, they call in and they say, well, I don't believe the lady was in the, she wasn't, I don't believe she was, killed herself. But me, I deal with solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how life operates, on solutions. You never hear anybody say what should be done to the police. And what I think is, if it's some type of law, and I'm writing this down for radio, if it's some type of law, and I know it could be done, but people don't want it. They don't want the solutions. And I'm talking about a lot of black African American people. They're just talking. If they raise the issue that police should be executed through the law, at least start there. We'll get a lot more leeway. All this talking about the investigation. This is what I hear the family say, and I hear this in every situation a black is killed, preferably what I'm talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you hear. They say, "Oh, we want the truth. We want investigation."
Mm-hmm.
When the guy got killed, what was that? A Zimmerman case.
Yep.
Family said, "We want investigation. We want justice." And let me tell you something what I like about the system. They gave them just what they asked for: investigation and justice.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't arrested at first. Al Sharp and everybody. Oh, well, let's get him arrested. He got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the family saying, well, we want the truth. Well, you know what the truth is going to be? The truth is whatever that officer put on the affidavit and sign it, that is going to be the truth, and that is what they're going to get. And so they keeping their eye off the ball and looking at the evidence, where it's okay. Well, looking at history and recent history, we know where the evidence is going to go.
Right. You're absolutely right. I'm up against the bottom of the show. I appreciate you making your point, and I think you're right. I think the problem is that you're always ice skating uphill when you're arguing with the police. That's why body cams are actually a great thing. I think dash cams are very important. I even think more so than a gun, I think the black community should really think about dash cams in their own cars as a safety measure.
And Dennis Rodman, the next time you come in, you do not have to change your name. We're happy to take your call anytime.
That's hilarious. Johnny Million, thank you so much. Thanks, John Fugelsang, for joining us today. David Bender, thank you, Miss Lady B, for doing a great job, by the way. First day flying solo.
Shaking her head. Come on.
Oh, you're doing great.
Solo.
So excited. So excited. You're great. Ask Dennis how much he screwed up still. We love him. Okay,
Yes,
we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. We didn't have time for a happy ending in the traditional sense this week, other than the fact that we had so many calls and so many guests. I guess the happy ending is
especially sensitive
will come.
to the pain that results when the law.
We will hopefully have a situation where we get our happy ending would be we have an extra hour one day. We'll see. I don't know. And to those of you who say that the beard is unnecessary, it's here to stay for the time being. The as peculiar as it is an experience for me to actually have one, it is getting fairly good reviews as well. And that's, so hopefully you can stand it. It's actually, holding together fairly well. Yeah. So, anyways, you guys are great, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much, and take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. We'll see you.